Wake Up Radio Network.
A rational voice in a world of conspiracy. Jim Duke Perspective.
My website is jimdukeperspective.com. You can listen on any of your favorite apps and players. Please subscribe to us. Keep us rolling that way. And it's better for the algorithms when you show interest, share and like these episodes, this podcast. And I appreciate you listening. So there's a lot of things, I talk about politics. I talk about how I like to be apolitical. And the reason I like to be apolitical or claim that I'm apolitical is because once you've seen the wizard behind the curtain, it's hard to choose sides seriously. And once you realize the bidding of voting and the instrumentation it takes for politics and the wheel deal, the bribes, the lies, all this stuff, it's hard to want to contribute into the system. So I almost view it as, okay, I know the difference between the two parties or the systems and the ideologies, and I will clarify that. But with that, I can't take any candidate on either side seriously because of who they are, what I know they represent, and who pulls the puppet strings. Therefore, I don't think our votes are legit most of the time. And if they are, they're only legit enough to give them a barometer of who they know they can put over us on us that we would choose. So it's almost like voting's almost like a suggestion box, and they use that suggestion box to put before us candidates that fall in our appeasement so that they can control them in the ideology that they represent. Because they say one thing and they do. There's a sure sign to know how a politician is lying. Do you know how to tell when a politician is lying?
When a politician is lying, how can you tell? I would say probably
there's a clear-cut sign.
I would say probably when he opens his mouth.
Yep. Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, because
wow.
Basically they represent a base. They represent an ideology. They're supposed, I'm not saying they're scripted. Some people will go as far as to say that they're scripted and they don't really speak of their own. They are briefed, I'm sure, of some things and warned of other things. But for the most part, they know they got to play a part. The Republican has to play the part of a capitalist, sympathetic to the working class, the middle class, and, he's going to be more strong on traditional values, so to speak. And the Democrat is an admitted social engineer, like social justice, liberalism. Everybody should have. The haves should give up for the have-nots, and there should be no individual civil rights. Everything is as a whole. So they believe in collectivism. They believe in a collectivism in that the collectivism is that the greater good of the public is better than the individual. So, in other words, if the whole is more beneficial by a policy, screw the rights of an individual. Screw your constitutional rights. And that's basically socialism. And that's basically what they are, socialists. But they won't admit it. They'll just say it in ideology. Like, if it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's a duck. They'll say, no, it quacks like a duck, it looks like a duck, but it's not a duck. And they'll sidestep it. They won't admit they're socialists and borderline communists. Mm-hmm. But their ideology is straightly, overtly socialist. And we know that the Democratic Party is the one used for that facade or that left-right paradigm, that left paradigm. On the other hand, the right paradigm stands up for truth and justice and the American way. It's like Superman.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom. But they don't, because in the back rooms, they're bribed. They're told they better side with certain agendas. If there's not enough of a majority in the Democrats, they will coax some of the Republicans to side with them by bribing them or convincing them or promising them, you'll lose this battle, but you'll win a war elsewhere. And so the Republican comes up and tells you how much he's such a constitutionalist, but then everything he votes for is globalist.
Right. Like I said, they probably have either been blackmailed by Epstein or China. Yeah. But if each Republican followed the Republican ideology, you would see like freedom. You'd see like they, proclaim, this is what we're for. But no, they always do the opposite. So people say, you see, they're all, which they are, because they're bored out probably.
Yeah, and they have to appease you. So they appease you by taking the container that are in that camp and leading them on and telling them what they want them to say or what they want them to hear. But then behind closed doors, you'd be surprised on how many they're controlled, you could say, by the Democratic Party. But it's not really the Democratic Party. It's the oligarchy in charge of finances and lobbies and things like that do want socialism. So that's why the Democratic Party get a pass. But the Republicans are not as overt about it. They're more covert. They do it secretly. So in reality, the Democrats tell you right out that they don't want civil rights of the states. They want global rights. They want federal rights. They want the government to be your controller. They basically admit they're totalitarian, where the Republicans say the opposite, but they still side with the totalitarians.
Exactly.
So,
but the ideology of the Republican Party is for freedom and liberty and justice, and
that's what the ideology is supposed to be.
Right.
Right. But they
never.
Yeah, the people in it don't follow suit to the ideology. They now use it as a buzzword, a label, so they can string those who do want that ideology along. And we vote for these guys, but the oligarchy has the puppet strings on them just as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yep. If you had like a Rand Paul actually run, he'll never get no chance. Rand Paul. Who's that guy? What was that guy's name who ran in 20? Was it 16? I forget his name, but he was just a conservative, right wing. Can't think of his name, but remember. Not Rand Paul. But anyway, it's people like that, individuals, independents, they have no chance.
Yeah, and if they do, they get just basically pushed aside anyway. Because you got to remember, the primaries tell you who's going to be the representative of that party.
Right. Yep. If somehow they did get elected, they wouldn't last long.
Right.
They'd either be.
Well, they probably won't even get a chance to be elected, and because they get pushed aside for the main features, the mainstream candidates. And everybody thought Trump was that one because Trump was against the establishment. He seemed to be against the deep state. But as much as he was against the establishment, so he said, because he wasn't a politician, he still rubbed shoulders with the same financiers who controlled the party. He took loans from Rothschilds to bail him out of bankruptcy. He's a financier. He's got Goldman Sachs members on his staff. There's still CFR members that they still part of the fellowship.
Wow.
So who are they kidding when they're? Did you ever hear the story of Pat Robertson? And I got his book. It was a very good book, despite him. Pat Robertson wrote the book New World Order. He didn't really write it. It was ghostwritten, but we won't tell anybody. In it, it actually talks about the Illuminati and everything. It's a good book. And
really, Pat Robertson?
Yeah. What it said was, and they told some stories that Pat Robertson included in the book. One of the stories is that he said that when Jimmy Carter was elected, they said, oh, we got a Christian man, a born-again Christian man on the board. Boy, this is a shoe-in for all our candidates that we have for his administration. And they approached him and gave him a list of all the people, just like the coalitions do. The coalitions are people that are organizations, think tanks for the party or whatever. The coalition, the Christian coalition and such, gave him a list of people that would be shoo-ins for his candidacy. And Jimmy Carter shook his head and he said, and they said, "What's the matter?" He says, "I can't use anybody on this list." And they said, "What do you mean? You can't use anybody? It's your cabinet." He says, "No, they tell me it's on a short list they give me of who I can choose for my administration. And none of these people are on it."
Mm.
So even the administrations are controlled. So most of them are on the CFR boards, the Council on Foreign Relations, who is an Illuminati organization. They're not the Illuminati, but they're controlled by the Illuminati. They're an Illuminati offshoot for the members of society, the sectors of society, to rein them into socialism. So these members get on the campaigns and in the administration, and they start contaminating things. And Trump was no better. Trump had these people on his board.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say that they can say all they want. They're going to clear out the deep state. They're going to make a difference. And the same people are on their administrations, the CFR members and people that are controlled that way. So if they're in the system, they're in the system. I mean, not much more you can say about it. I don't give hope to anybody in the system, unfortunately, and that means that we really can't have anybody in the system because they're going to be controlled somehow. And even if you think Trump is his own man, they still have control mechanisms on him. They still used his ego. And look at now, they're controlling him. Even though he's his own man, they're basically just holding that criminal charge above his head when they can cash it in, and they probably will use it. And the other side's got Biden, and he's incoherent, but his supporters are saying, "Oh, he's a brilliant man. He's so kind and honest and compassionate. Look at a picture of him with the children. Oh, yeah, that's real compassionate." But anyway, the point is that he's incoherent, and they don't care if he's a corpse. They're going to still vote for him. So ideologies aside, they're voting for ideology, but the advantage goes to the Democrats because the system is global, and the Democrats are socialists, and that's the system they want, and even for the Republicans. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how we're going to get out of this mess.
Well, like the Bible says, the world is evil, the world system. Love not the world nor the things in the world, Yeah.
And then, people sided with Trump, but he fast-tracked warp speed vaccines. Now, he didn't approve mandating them, but he did warp speed the vaccines, the vaccinations.
Right. Some people say, is it possible that they were just saline and not the actual jab that people were getting with the...
I don't know.
Because he used the military, so that would be like the other part that would deliver these type to get people to take this one, which would be harmless, and then save lives. So I'm hoping. And
I don't know. They were delivering. They approved the Moderna and the Pfizer stuff, didn't they?
Well, that's supposedly, but he's.
They didn't. They're not magicians. They didn't switch and bait and hide the other vials. I'm sure, because it's a lot to do with that. That would be a very difficult task to do. So I don't know if that's rational to believe, but he did support the funding for it. So if he supported the funding for Pfizer and all this stuff, he's just as bad as guilty as keeping it along. So they did still put it out there, and he didn't stay in office, so it wasn't him delivering it. So how did he have control over that? It no longer was in his hands anyway. But he was also for gay rights. Really? So, this is the warning that God had to desecrate a nation, Sodom and Gomorrah, an allegory to bring abomination. And they took what God calls an abomination to declare it as a right. And I guess Trump was for that too. He's also for Noahide laws. And now we have rumors of this program 2025. You hear that? Everybody's in uproars about?
Yeah, and in fact, there's an Alex Jones article. I don't know
Oh.
if you've seen that.
No.
You want me to read it now real quick?
Yeah,
or
go ahead.
Skim through it. Alex Jones turns on Donald Trump.
Oh,
yes.
That was his poster boy.
Story by Aliyah Shoaib, 13 hours ago. Conservative commentary: Alex Jones has criticized Trump for distancing himself from Project 2025, an initiative to overhaul the federal government should the former president be reelected. The Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank, drafted the project, which outlines a plan to ensure Republican loyalists are in place at all levels of the federal government to implement conservative policies from the first day of the new Republican administration.
All right, so this is what I wanted to get at. I said there are coalitions, and the Christian Coalition wanted to petition people for Jimmy Carter, and there's been think tanks or coalitions ever since. Heritage Foundation is nothing more than a political coalition. And then you got the Christian right, which is the Christian nationalists, and they're all rallying for Trump and saying, we got to vote for Trump, our last hope, our last hope. They're putting savior status ability on this guy. Okay, so what the left has feared, and some Christians who sees through this Project 2025, have you looked into it, what it means?
Well, just from what I just read there, it sounds pretty good, actually,
Okay.
At least on the surface.
Some people are criticizing it, saying it sounds like it's going to dictate and be totalitarianism on the other side. However, we do know that the Democrats are uproar about it because they're saying Trump's Project 26 is going to take away abortion rights, going to take away this, going to take away that. It may. But the only problem with this is that this is not Trump initiated. It's not Trump's Project 2025, and that's what they're saying it is. They're thinking that it is. All it is a coalition who's petitioned propaganda, and their propaganda is a sort of wish list for the Republican candidate. And Trump being the Republican candidate, they strongly advise him to follow this outline, and he has claimed that he hasn't done so. He said it's their wish list, not mine. They can say whatever they want, but I'm still going to do what I think is right for the country if I get elected. But the thing is that everybody's putting this off on Trump as his project, and it's not. It's a propaganda write-up by Heritage Foundation.
Wow.
But however, people think that Trump is behind it because the same people who helped Trump or helped draft his policies are people in the Heritage Foundation that wrote it. So that's why they're making that link. But people are being irrational about it on both sides. Even the Democrats are being irrational, saying, "Oh my gosh, this 2025 agenda is going to kill democracy," and Trump's Project 2020. It's not Trump's project, first of all. Secondly, if you say it's going to kill democracy, I hope it does, because we're not a democracy.
Exactly.
We're not supposed
republic.
to be. Yeah. So
right.
Whenever I laugh every time Biden says Trump wants to destroy your democracy, I laugh and I say, yeah, I would too. I'm not a socialist.
Exactly. I.e. communist, borderline communist.
Darren, I've been all over Twitter. Can't believe, what's that?
I was going to say, before we go into, I'll hold off. Go ahead. Twitter.
No, I was just going to say,
Twitter?
All over Twitter, I've never seen a campaign as much as I have in support of Biden. Almost like every Twitter came, like they hired all these bots or all these people to come out and saturate Twitter with Biden support. And it's overwhelming. Oh, he's the greatest thing. Yeah, sure, he's not really alive, but who cares? I mean, they say ridiculous things like, wait a minute, I commented on a lot of these just out of not support for Trump or anybody else, but just out of stupidity. I've been trolling, Darren. I have to admit, I've been a Twitter troll, and I or X they call it now. I hate that name. X stands for like Antichrist type of stuff. But anyway, Twitter. So people are saying, oh, Biden, I don't care if his eyes open. He's still the greatest thing and can lead the country. And I'm like, are you guys stupid? Do you realize that a president has to be coherent and has to lead and has to run things and approve things? You can't have a vegetable running for president. That's not how it works, idiots. He's supposed to be running a country. You're just basically running a popularity contest and want to put a Weekend at Bernie on the stand. What idiots. They don't even know what the role of the president is. Although the president is a figurehead anyway. But they don't know that the president's supposed to be coherent, that the president is supposed to be wise, that he's supposed to be intelligent. And they said, well, we don't care if Biden's incoherent. We don't care if he's in a coma. What are you, idiots? How can he run anything? So you're voting for the party. That's what they're voting for. And I have to say to them, every time they say something like, oh, Trump's against abortion rights and all this stuff. And I said, first of all, he just wants to give it to the civil states like we're supposed to. Second of all, so what? I'm against abortion too. Mm-hmm. And they don't know what to say. And then they say something like, Trump will destroy what Biden started for America. And I said, great. I hope he does. I'm not a socialist. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with socialists.
Yep.
So they say I don't agree with Trump, or I don't agree with conservatives is basically what they're saying. And I said, of course you don't. You're a commie socialist. Why would you?
Yep.
I just call them. I've been just blasting people, calling them out. Now, am I getting mileage? Darren, I'm all over these comments. Do you know that one person probably sees it? I mean, it gets flagged and flushed in the comment sections. Nobody sees it. But, I feel darn good retaliating against their ignorance. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, how Alex Jones is against Trump. And then about the Heritage Foundation, we mentioned that. That's part of the Tavistock Foundation.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to mention that because Heritage Foundation is kind of a facade of a representative of Christian values and the Christian coalition all wrapped in one. They're supposed to be like this real reputable conservative think tank. And then we find out they're what, Darren?
Part of the Tavistock Foundation. What that is?
Oh my gosh!
This course is designed to serve as a grounding. Oh wait a minute, that's the wrong one. Let me just grab it. Oh, here it is. Yeah. The best kept secret in America, Tavistock. It's just one paragraph. All Tavistock and American Foundation techniques have a single goal: to break down the psychological strength of the individual and render him helpless to oppose the dictators of the world order. Any techniques which helps to break down the family unit and family included principles of religion, honor, patriotism, and sexual behavior is used, blah, blah, blah. So that's Tavistock, and the Heritage Foundation is part of it.
Wow. Yep. I've heard that. I couldn't remember what the tie-in was, but thanks for reminding me that. Which is strange because Trump is now against the Tavistock. You have the Tavistock against Trump, but then Trump is for. It's like a big mess. It's a big circle. It's a circular. Yeah. He's against Tavistock, but he's for the Heritage Foundations, but he's not for the Heritage Foundation. He's saying he's not really part of it. That's their wish list, not his. But yet he's tied in with them, right? Something like that. Yeah, something like that. It's just a big. I don't know. It's like a vicious circle. I think it's part of the plan, the Jesuits' plans. Let's talk about that. Sure. So let me backtrack. Now that we laid down the backdrop for politics, this immigration policy follows suit with socialism. And immigration is used because, future votes. But more than that, immigration is used to basically wear down a nation. And let me tell you what happened in the past. There is little said about the Jesuit influence in border crisis. And a little known thing is people don't realize the Red Cross were very instrumental in bringing in illegal immigrations in other countries. And their Red Cross is a Vatican-run organization. They're basically the Jesuits or the Knights Templar.
Can I comment real quick on
Yep.
Red Cross? I don't know if it's an African country, but they equate the American Red Cross arrival with their truck as basically as very bad. They would equate with it whenever the American Red Cross truck would enter their area and do their administration of whatever they're administrating. Soon after, many of the tribe's members would actually die soon after, within a couple weeks.
Really?
So whenever the African group, I don't know what part of the country, the continent, but they would equate that American Red Cross with people dying soon after. They would yell at them, "Get out of here." So that's a fact. I'll pull up the article. I'll give it to you. You can put it on your site or something if people want to hear it. I know it's just my words now, but it's an actual fact. So
wow, yeah. Well, I heard a lot of things like that in other countries. I'm glad because we have listeners in Africa, so they need to know this. And it's also been said that all the blood samples that they take, they don't have a way to screen out the viral ones, the dangerous ones, and such. So they could be basically giving out contaminated vials. I don't think they test them. I don't know. There's something to say with that. I don't get involved in that stuff. But
also, has anybody ever counted the amount of blood donated to the amount they actually use? Probably not. I'll bet the amount they receive is far greater than what they administer to people that need it.
So where do you think it's going?
Well, they're nefarious. I'll tell you. I could speculate, but it wouldn't be facts. But if you know what I'm getting at, I'm sure people realize too. It's evil.
Yeah. So they were involved in bringing immigrations, and they were also instrumental in smuggling Nazi war criminals out of Germany after the war. Did you know that?
Wow. No.
The immigration of foreigners occupy a land with those that are not American, and it reduces the influence of citizens. Why? Well, to advance the political agenda of globalism. If you bring chaos, you basically advance. It's a silent warfare. It's what the Jesuits do to countries to break them down. They've been instrumental in this. And Joe Biden's a patsy for this agency. He's the face for the Vatican power. Not that he represents the Vatican, but I mean, he's the Vatican patsy. The Red Cross also influenced COVID quarantine camps in many countries. And the reports are that they're doing this in all 50 states. I wanted to bring this up because this is the point of this segment, is that the New York court had approved, our liberal socialist governor, Kathy Hochul, approved in New York State courts quarantine camps a while back during COVID, and every year after she keeps bringing it forth until it passes. And it's approved rules for quarantine camps. What it's called is New York Rule 2.13, Isolation and Quarantine Procedures. Now, why are we talking about this when there's not a pandemic? Because all it takes is another scare to initiate this measure. And that's what they're after. And you notice that the governor of New York recently made a status about the increase in COVID cases recently, and that her hospitals are getting flooded. Now, you got to remember, when she says this, she talks mainly New York City. These are New York City governors, even though they govern the whole state. New York City is the big stronghold. And what they have, rules in New York City are different than upstate. So like here, where the municipalities will not step in, the police departments, in New York City, they almost always enforce what the governor says. From what I understand. People that live down there said, oh, they had to wear masks. They all are like vaccinated. It's like mandated there to do anything. But these procedures force quarantine based on the dictates of the state. Now, the jurisdiction for this has been given over to the health department alone. The health department can raise a health concern to issue a quarantine, and they can initiate this without debate or being subject to due process.
Wow.
If this takes place. It's been voted down Well, it's not been voted down. It's been called unconstitutional. And Kathy Hochul says she's going to keep putting it through because she says, I don't care if it's against the rights of people. Let them fight it in court. And
Can I comment on one thing?
What's that?
I think we may have said this before, but New York and California are the most liberal, democratic, socialist states, and they have the 2 highest ratings of the exodus, the people leaving the states out of all the. What a coincidence, huh? The 2 highest, and the most conservative Republican state, Florida, has the highest influx of people.
Right.
What does that tell you, folks?
Yeah. Get out of. We're on our way out of New York.
New York, it's so democratic, socialist. It's hideous, evil.
This is not just socialist. If this was socialist, I can't say I'd bear it. I would not have as much of a problem as it is mandating this stuff, pushing it through its executive orders, and no one challenging it. The Republicans aren't challenging it, which tells me the Republicans had bowed down to this Democrat party, also this Democrat control, which means that she's allowed to steamroller totalitarian dictatorship tactics.
Yep.
That's the problem. And they're calling Trump a dictator. Not that I'm defending Trump. I'm just saying.
Right.
They're calling him a total dictator.
Hypocrites.
And look at this. She doesn't care about the Constitution. She says she'll take the chances as people attempt to sue the state in court. So she's going to tie up the courts and tie up our funding for her whims. However, the municipalities, the state, the police. I've talked to police here. Now, she's going to initiate the health department, just like they did during COVID, where they said the health department is going to issue out fines, and businesses were scared because they didn't want to get fined by the state. The health department would come in and have the police come in to issue fines and to arrest people that didn't have masks. I talked to many of the municipalities around here, and they all told me, the police told me, they said, we do not do the bidding for the health department. Let the health department issue their own fines. Let them make the arrests if they feel that they're, because it's not a criminal act. It's not a law. And they refused. They said we have to arrive if we get reports. But all we can do is tell people to get out of the store if they're not complying with the store's rules. We can't arrest them unless they act out, and we're not going to issue fines. So this is, the health department would stand on their own. I know I'm not going to name our counties because, this slights people that are in other countries and such. They don't know the difference. But there's other counties that will not enforce this also. And I'm hoping this sets precedents around the states that you don't have to fear these dictatorships. The municipalities, if they're not Freemason and they're not New York City police departments, they might refuse to act on these jurisdictions. So, but these executive powers, they're challenging due process laws that have been in place for over 70 years.
Yep.
So she's declaring totalitarianism, and any state also that does so. Other countries have done this. They've acted dictatorship, but they don't have a constitution like ours. So I don't know how they would get around it.
She's a female Andrew Cuomo. That's what she is.
Yep. So
his sister.
In this, they've during the isolation and quarantine procedures, and even around the country, there's reports in every state that have enacted these issues that they're building facilities for quarantine. Contractors, even recently, up to recently, have come out to say they admitted that their companies were offered to bid on buildings of detention facilities. Now they're calling them not isolation and quarantine camps. They're calling them detention facilities. And they're told that possibly they're to house illegal immigrants that are causing trouble. However, they're building them in drones. What is it? What's it called? In massive amounts. Yeah.
Droves.
And they're not occupied. by illegal immigrants or anybody else at this point. So why are they saying they're in need to build them if there's nobody in them?
Mm-hmm.
They're anticipating something. So they're suspicious that these are detention facilities. And what are they going to be used for? Well, they're not going to be used for the illegal immigrants or even COVID quarantines, but they're going to be used as re-education camps to address dissidents, is what the suspicions are. So that means diehard conservatives or capitalists or Christians or truthers that don't go along with the New World Order. Is this just the new Inquisition? So,
Well, it goes against the God-given sovereign right of the person, man or woman, to live in common law jurisdiction and to have bodily autonomy and freedom from any government tyranny or oppression. That's it. That'll always be the law of the land. If they want to do something against us, it would have to be, God forbid, by force, and it would not be lawful according to God. So,
wow, that message was good. Was that off the top of your head, or
Yeah.
did you script that?
No, I just thought about that.
Folks, I didn't write this for him. All right, that was another public message by Darren. I just have to say that. That's funny. So anyway, yeah, so this is a threat against us, possibly in our society, but it doesn't mean it's inevitable, but it is probable, and it is potential that, and so the Trump fanatics are saying we can skirt this by putting Trump to save us. But that would basically, it might be a deterrent, it might be a detour of some kind. But again, Trump I don't think he's like totally 100% lockstep against that. I just don't think that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think maybe it would be a reprieval like the first time it was. It would be definitely better than Biden. But are we going to unwittingly usher in another directive of our demise or what? I mean, that's why I can't side with either way right now.
Will we be lulled into a state of complacency and
exactly.
pseudo safety? Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I would rather vote for a person that I really would want, even if he is a loser or doesn't have a chance. If we're supposed to vote conscious and we vote for, well, I don't want to vote conscious for this guy, so I'm going to take the lesser of two evils and vote for Trump rather than Biden, then aren't you actually compromising what you actually want to stand for? Then shouldn't you really vote for whoever is a candidate that you would really want to stand behind, even if he doesn't have a chance? Are we voting for the chance, or are we voting for the person that people say they vote ideology because they really stand by the ideology and the person that presents it. But if we can't trust those person, it's just the lesser of two evil, then to be true to our conviction, wouldn't we really vote for the one that truly stands for us, even if it's a third party nobody? Can't we do that? Why couldn't we? Because he can't win. Okay, so you're voting for you're voting for the lesser of two evils, not for your conscience, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my conscience is that I vote for the lesser of two evils, and he does some of the stuff he says. Well, no, you can't guarantee that. How do you know Trump isn't gonna turn and support abortion all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying he will. His Supreme Court at least took the right away, but I mean the mandate of abortion allowances away and gave it back to the states. He didn't take it away. He didn't ban abortion per se. He just banned it federally and allowed the states to make their own decisions, which is actually what the Constitution's called for, right?
I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, I think that's what the Constitution is. It's the individual civil rights to the states, so that the federal government can never take over as a conglomerate, as an oligarchy. Right. And that's what the Democrats want to do. They want to abolish the civil rights of
essentially they want to abolish the Constitution.
Yes, exactly.
Indirectly.
Well, that was my point. They want, and that's what this is. Why this is so
anyone's a
Devastating.
Democrat, they better check their morals, their serious, because freedom is
Yeah.
the way it should be,
And I got one more to sum this up. What are they going to do with the bodies, supposedly, of the dissidents after they're done?
Probably send them to, I won't say it.
What would you say?
I was going to send them to a fast food restaurant like they're doing now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't go that way, but
I shouldn't laugh at that.
no,
It's terrible. But,
well, I got
yeah.
something even close.
Mhm.
Close. I mean, all right. New York has approved composting of human bodies.
Wow.
So
New
therefore,
York. Yeah.
if your loved one dies and is cremated, or they decide they want to do something with the body, you can use it for natural organic fertilizer. So typically speaking, you can fertilize your food with it, Darren. You weren't
Wow.
far off.
Well, they say a certain soft drink has, what is
Yep.
it, like aborted baby cells in there.
HEC 293 is the compound that the manufacturers that manufacture this have used for the ingredients. They claim that they just make the ingredients an experimental, and it's the individual companies that make use of it, and they claim that it's not aborted babies, it's only samples of aborted babies. Oh my gosh, well, they have to have real samples to use, right?
Wow.
No, it's a
so when they
it's a
say
cover.
natural flavors, babies are
Yep.
natural.
Yep.
You know what I'm getting at. And then when you look at I want to say that I won't say Nestle, but when you read a certain brand that says natural flavor, babies are natural. If you know what I'm getting at.
You can
Humans
name it. You can name it.
Yeah.
Nestle's,
Yeah.
Coca-Cola,
Nestle, Coca-Cola,
different-
Pepsi.
Yeah, we mentioned
Yep.
this before. I think we have a podcast on this. Look up HEK 293. That's the formula.
It's good you got it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll close with that. My website, jimdukeperspective.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. God bless.